know you're on Bookstagram? Bookstagram, the book neighborhood of Bookstagram. You look for identifying factors. The way I think of it is like how you know you're in a different neighborhood. The houses look a little different, people act a little different. The first part of this video is going to be talking about what those factors are. I think you can guess the first one is pretty obvious. It's books. You see a lot of books, that's a sign that you might be on Bookstagram. But what are the other signs? How else can we identify what part of Instagram we have stumbled into? What are the common elements and features of Bookstagram? Now, if this was a Bookstagram picture, I need a book. Yes, Bookstagram. Let's not use any of these. If this is my Bookstagram post, okay, you would notice some common elements in this picture that are in a lot of other Bookstagram pictures. Books, naturally. I was holding one as well. Plants, and this little one down here. A lot of people have plants in their photos. Greenery, the illusion of outdoorsiness. Candles, which you may have noticed. My electric candle next to my fake plants. Things aren't real here. But there are other things in this photo as well that aren't necessarily common elements on Bookstagram, but they add a little bit of personality. The record up here, she likes music. A drawing a friend of mine did of Post Malone really fit the whole black and white aesthetic that I've got going on here, and so I included that as well because, again, I like music, and it was very useful for the pun. So, vocab. Something else that might help you identify where on Bookstagram you are is the captions. Instagram usually comes in two parts. You've got a photo and you've got a caption. That is what makes up your instant gram. So what in a caption can help you identify a Bookstagram post versus just a normal post? What is the language of Bookstagram?
TBR, to be read, the list of books you haven't read yet but want to. QOTD, AOTD, question or answer of the day. CR, current read or currently reading. Bookish, everything that has to do with books in style or illusion. Multi-book reader, someone who reads multiple books concurrently. Own voice book, written from a perspective which the main character and author share. ARC, ALC, advanced readers or listeners copy, sent out prior to the mass release of the book. Mood reader, someone who reads and chooses books according to their mood. Immersive reading, also known as side-by-side reading, listening to an audiobook while reading the physical book. Tag, usually a series of questions or a challenge created as a trend on social media, sometimes to spread awareness. Backlist or frontlist book. Frontlist is new books, backlist are those which aren't new but are still selling. Book birthday or pub day, anniversary of a book's release. Buddy read, reading the same book as a friend to discuss.
Now that you know what to look for in terms of what should be in the photos or what might be in the caption, we're going to talk about who's posting these photos and writing these captions. Who is on Bookstagram? Who makes up the community of Bookstagram? Well, you know, if you're on Bookstagram, you're probably looking for a Bookstagrammer. So that's the logical progression of that. But who are Bookstagrammers? They're normal people like you and me. It's really nice. It's a comforting thought. A lawyer or a college student or a teacher, but you can't have a community about books without including the people who make the books. So Bookstagram also includes authors, writers, artists, publishers, editors, marketing, people who work in publishing houses, bookstore owners, the bookstore, Instagram itself, book podcast hosts, book subscription boxes, and other bookish, to use our previously mentioned terminology, companies. So audiobook platforms have a presence on Instagram as well. People who run stores that sell bookish products like bookmarks and mugs and book-related t-shirts and reprints of classic books and things like that. So there are so many other people on Bookstagram, and so that's what we're going to talk about in the next part. What's the business of Bookstagram? Part 2, number 1, the research bits. Love that for me. Before we go any further, we should probably talk about why I'm even talking to you about this in the first place, which is that I'm doing a research project, which you probably know from the intro. But what is the significance of it? Good question. I will answer that. There exists research on your classic book club, right? Where you gather with a group of people, you've all read the same book, and now you're gonna sit around and talk about it. Club, there's research on talking about books in classes in school, the benefits or effects of students talking about books with each other. There's also research on your celebrity book clubs, Oprah's book club or Reese's book club, things that are celebrity endorsed and have influence over what people read. In the last 5 or 10 years, I'm sure you've noticed that there's been this rise of social media and people who work on social media, often called influencers. And so there has been this new wave of influencer marketing where brands and companies either send people with large social media followings free products, or they will pay them to talk about one of their products or services, and that's influencer marketing. So there's more research going on in that sphere. I wanted to see where these two ideas converge. So we've got your classic book club, which is offline, in person. We've got influencers and influencer marketing, which is completely pretty much online. And now we have Bookstagram, which is somewhere in the middle. There are people who do Bookstagram casually, and there are people who do it more seriously and want to turn it into an influencer-like career. Now there are brands and companies and organizations on Bookstagram who can benefit off of Bookstagrammers who have a captive audience, just like any other influencer. Send out books to get reviews. It doesn't matter if the person wants to become an influencer or is just someone who reads as a hobby and grew a following. If someone was like, hi, let me do this with glasses, props, Lizzie Bennett diary style, I think so. I'd like to send you some books just for free. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but we'd love if you did. Either way, we're gonna send you this book for free. Do you want it? You want to give me this hardcover book for free? Yes, I think I will take it. Thank you. Thank you very much. People say they want to give you free books, you take the free books. That's just the way it is. I looked at 30 Bookstagram accounts. I separated them into 3 groups, 3 brackets, if you will, of following sizes. People who had under 10,000 followers, people who had over 90,000 followers, and people who were between 10 and 90,000. Captions, I looked at the contents of their photos, how often they got partnerships, if at all. Do they use questions, call to action? Do they give book recommendations? Do they ask for book recommendations? Do they use hashtags? Do they use emojis? Things like this that make up all of the elements of Bookstagram. What's the difference? What is the relationship between someone who has a smaller following and the brands on Bookstagram versus someone who has a larger following than the brands on Bookstagram? Is there a difference? What does engagement look like on Bookstagram? Is there like a standard ratio of likes to followers or comments to likes? And, well, I guess you'll see. This is part 2. Like I said earlier, I did a content analysis of 30 Bookstagram accounts. For the 3 follower size brackets that I have, up to 10,000, over 90,000, and then between 10 and 90,000 followers, I did 10 accounts, 10 for each group.
Thought I should include the small caveat that this is a very small sample size compared to the amount of people who are probably on Bookstagram and just on Instagram in general. Let's take these facts with a grain of salt. I do think they are a little significant given the small sample size. And this is also not a random sample, akin to a snowball sample. So, okay.
Without further ado, let's look at some graphs. The way I wanted to measure engagement was by looking at the number of followers someone had and what bracket they were in, the average number of likes they got on a photo, and the average number of comments they got on a photo. What I found was people in the under 10,000 follower bracket had twice as much engagement as people who had more than 10,000 followers. This kind of makes sense because they're talking to a smaller audience. They may be able to get to know more of those people better versus someone who has tens of thousands of subscribers and can't personally get to know every single person. It also has to do with Instagram algorithms and how that works and posting frequency. So many things that go into who sees your Instagram post and who interacts with it.
What you're looking at here are a couple of graphs that show engagement across groups. I measured engagement by looking at the ratio of likes to followers and comments to likes on average by account and across groups. What I found was a negative trend in engagement as the number of followers increased, except for an uptick at the end when the accounts started to near and surpass 200 followers. I also found some outliers who brought up the average. The trend lines that you see represent the average at any given point of comments to likes or likes to followers, so I wanted to look at what made these specific outliers different. This first account has about 1,500 followers and a comments to likes ratio of 18.89%. I took a look at the posts on their account with the highest number of comments and found that, regardless of the number of likes or comments, almost every post on this account had a QOTD and a book tagged in the caption. On this specific post with the highest number of comments, I found that the poster asked their audience about their opinion of audiobooks versus ebooks. The next account has about 3,000 followers and an average of 834 likes. Now, their likes to followers ratio is about 26.9%. This is extremely high considering what we see from every other account in this content analysis. Not a single post on this person's account had a sponsorship or gifted product or ad. They also had a QOTD and AOTD on almost every post. On the two posts with the highest like, they are both unsponsored, have some kind of personal anecdote or connection. One features a bookshelf, while the other a book haul specifically dedicated to Pride Month. The third account is another comments to likes outlier. This one has almost 9,000 followers and a comments to likes ratio of 14.82%. What I found about this account is that they asked questions on 9 out of 10 of the posts that I observed. The one that didn't have a question was a thank you to the audience on their birthday. And almost every post that this person posted had a gifted product and a product description, so a review or description of the book that was gifted in the post. This is different than the last post where we saw none of the posts were sponsored or had any gifted products. Moving on to the 10,000 to 90,000 bracket, this account had 17.7 thousand followers and a likes to followers ratio of 10.36%. On their highest liked post, there was no partnership. They thanked their audience for getting them to 10,000 followers, and they participated in a trend called the hashtag Meet the Bookstagrammer. This post also featured social commentary on the Black Lives Matter movement, feminism, and critical race theory, citing the hashtags Amplify Black Voices and Amplify Melanated Voices. Their second highest liked post was posted on June 2nd, Blackout Tuesday, a trend also related to the Black Lives Matter movement, and on this post, their caption included commentary on the Black Square trend that took place on Instagram and the Reading Women Challenge. I will clarify the significance of this X'd out account as soon as I finish the next couple accounts. This one that is circled has a engagement ratio of 7.95%. We're looking at comments to likes again. This account has 120,000 followers, and what I found was that their highest commented post also mentions the Black Lives Matter movement and was a book review, superhero related with related questions. The next account has about 230,000 followers with an engagement ratio for likes to followers of 7.31%. This is where we start to really see the uptick in the likes to followers trend. Their second highest post had one question, and their highest post included a birthday message to another Bookstagrammer. Both posts are unsponsored. This last account has the highest likes to followers ratio in the entire over 90,000 bracket, but also has one of the lowest comments to likes ratios. The likes to followers ratio is 12.81%, and I think this is because this specific account is an author whose book series was recently turned into movies that have become very, very popular. And the posts on this account, a lot of them included behind the scenes photos from that movie shoot. So I think that is why we see this high likes to followers ratio. Addressing the X'd out account, I actually found that I mistakenly gave one account 5,000 comments instead of the 34 that it actually had, and that changed the ratio for that account as well as for the entire over 90,000 group and the engagement ratio for the whole chart. So these are the updated charts. Here you can see where the actual dot is supposed to be. And what the bars that you saw at the beginning were supposed to look like. You still do, however, see that trend downward of likes to comment and likes to followers.
Okay, that was a lot of numbers. I am a communication major. It's mostly words, okay? I don't do all the numbers. Anyways, next thing we're gonna talk about is mostly words. We're talking about books, comments, partnerships, and influence. That comes in part 3. The world and the future of Bookstagram. I'll see you there. The question I kept coming back to throughout this process was, is a Bookstagrammer an influencer? Can they be? The answer is yes. Also, kind of not really. The reason I was interested in this question in the first place is because, from my point of view, as someone who's kind of watching, an influencer is someone who creates content, has a captive audience, and is kind of here talking to their audience. To me, Bookstagram looked more like this. If you're on Bookstagram and you like talking about books, you're probably creating book-related content. You're not just consuming it. It's this different relationship between content creator and audience, because your audience is also creating content to the same end. And that's kind of complicated because now you can't really group all Bookstagrammers as having the same goal. Like I said earlier, some of them do it as a hobby, some people do it because they want to grow and they want to be considered an influencer. But regardless of the reason you're doing Bookstagram, and this is something that I learned by talking to Bookstagrammers, is that whether or not you want to, you have influence over the choices people make about what they read. Book tags and book challenges hosted by people with large followings or groups of Bookstagrammers or publishing houses encourage and influence people to read different kinds of books. Book podcasts like The Reading Women, who create these reading challenges and create their own awards, encourage reading books written by people with different identities, who have different stories than the stories that you see the most in mainstream media. So the thing is, there is more than just Bookstagram. Like, Bookstagram is not the only place on the internet where people talk about books. It all depends on your preference. On Bookstagram, you probably like taking pictures of books. There's also IGTVs on Bookstagram. If you're on BookTube, you probably like making videos about books and talking about books and entertaining people with your personality. This is why I'm not on BookTube. Maybe you have a website where you write about books. It is your book blog. Or maybe you like talking about books, so you have a book podcast. Maybe you like talking with other people about books, so you join a digital book club where you can meet with people online and talk about books. Maybe you like short form video, really quick and snappy. Get on Book Talk and talk about books on Book Talk. Book Talk Talk. My point is, there are so many places on the internet where you can talk about books. That leaves so much room for what you can learn about how people share their hobby, their interest, their passion about books or writing or making books. I learned during one of my interviews, reading is political. People use the books they read to learn about other communities, identify differences, and identify false differences, which is a phrase that I just made up, which is where you believe that there is a difference between you and another person because of your difference in identity, where there actually isn't. Use the books they read as a form of activism, and I think that's amazing because books are such an incredible way to learn about other communities in a really intimate way without, making someone uncomfortable by asking them questions that are very personal and very emotional. Something else I learned is that having a partnered post doesn't necessarily mean you are less authentic in your post. Maybe it just means that you wanted a free book. I would take the free book, wouldn't you? If someone wants to pay you to talk about books and you already talk about books all the time, you might as well make some money off of it. we'll keep that too. The main thing that I discovered, which I've mentioned many times in this video, is that your perception of Bookstagram is pretty much completely up to you. What you do with it, your goals with it, whether it's a hobby, whether it's for your career, for creating a career, for enhancing a career, and a creative outlet. Whatever way you use social media is completely up to you and your perception of the community that you create. I think if anyone is interested in doing more research on Bookstagram, they have a lot of routes they could take, and not even just research on Bookstagram. All of the ways that you can have influence on social media and on the internet. Social media activism through books. How do people advocate for certain communities through their interest, their hobbies, with the influence that they hold on social media? In the end, there is much to learn about Bookstagram and influencers and marketing and Bookstagrammers and books and what you read and how it's political and how you have influence. Does that make you an influencer? Kinda, not really. If you want to be, then you can be, and just posting about books could make you a Bookstagrammer, but you don't necessarily have to identify as a Bookstagrammer. That's okay. We learned a lot. Yeah, what I'm realizing I didn't do is like actually end this. This has been 8 weeks of my summer, and it has been so many books. There's so many book places. I don't even think that's all of them. We're on the same page. You get it? It's a book fun. It's a book joke. Ah. I said my friend drew this. He did. It's really realistic. It's very good. You know what kind of art I did for this project? Oh my god, it's falling apart. I painted this entire canvas black. Isn't it great? I'm so artistic. Oh my god, this has been a minute. I thought I was done, but I'm not done. Are there like iconic Bookstagram locations, monuments? On a personal level, I'd like to know. Cold emailing is hard. People don't like answering that. I wouldn't answer. Like, I'd be like, this is a scam. There's a lot of Bookstagram terms that are just publishing terms that I never heard of because the publishing world is mysterious. That record, it's hung up with the command hook. I don't know how I'm gonna get it down. It might just have to live up there forever. I'm serious. I'm kind of nervous about it. It's Sam Smith record. It's very important to me. It's very important to me. You know, I recorded this the first time standing, and then I was like, why am I standing? I'm not a standing person, I'm a sitting person. So I got this stool. You can't see it, I'm sitting on it. I feel really good about it. I also feel really good about these pants I'm wearing. They're plaid. Now I'm for real done. I've said a lot. I've said a lot of words today. If I actually include this. Wow. Ooh, you know how I really should end this? QOTD. I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, did you learn anything from this? I mean, I hope you did. If you didn't, what questions do you have now? Do you have any? I hope so. QOTD. What was it? Oh my gosh. 2OTD. 2QOTD. Do you think an influencer is a Bookstagrammer? And a third, a last one, the final one. How would you describe your Bookstagram community? 3 words. You get 3. That's it. 3 words.
Your love is rated X. That means you're extra, extra.